everybody. This is Nathaniel Provencio, and as always, with my very best friend, Dr. Worcester. What's up, man?
Hey, everybody. Good to see you, Nathaniel.
And coming from Jersey, the
Hey,
Garden State, where
Jersey girl.
nobody pumps their gas alone. Corey, what's going on? How's it going? Good to see you, Corey.
It's great. Thank you so much for having me today.
That's awesome. New Jersey is a great state. It is some of the best produce I've ever had has come from the Garden State.
The blueberry capital of the world. Did you know that?
Maine thought that they had blueberries. Nobody does blueberries and cranberries too.
Yep.
Jersey's got some bogs, got some. There's actually a town in New Jersey called Cranberry. So there you go. You know what I mean? So awesome. Corey, thank you very much for joining us with this show. This is the Community Connection. We're always trying to connect leaders with leaders, and you're a little bit different leader than some of the other guests that we've had. You're like the chief education officer or chief everything officer, chief program officer. You just tell us a little bit about this great company that you're working with to change the world, and then tell us a little bit about your origin story, Corey.
Sure. And absolutely. Thanks again for having me today. So I am the Chief Program Officer at AI for Education. And yes, we're an AI company, but when you hear that, we're not the type of AI company that you expect, because we don't build AI products. We're not creating software for education. What we do is really think about this moment in time, especially within K-12 education and higher education, and how we can support teachers, leaders, practitioners, students, and parents with the responsible and effective integration of AI within that teaching and learning journey.
I love it. I think that's outstanding. I'm a dad first. So I always try to preface that. I've got a 15-year-old who is, this is going to be his life. This is going to be his life. Yeah. It's like, Eric's really old. So when like Eric got a calculator, that was like a big deal. You know what I mean? And I'm a lot younger than Eric. So I remember when I had like, AOL Messenger, and I thought I was going to like connect with the world or whatever. But our kids, man, it's like, it's novel. It's new for them, but it's not new for them. My son and my daughter are both digital natives. That's where they are. I have a 12-year-old daughter and 15-year-old son. And I think that's fascinating, but I know that his teachers also are catching up to this aspect and how to use it responsibly and how to, and right now I see this, Eric, I don't know if you see this a lot, but like I do a lot of national coaching and leadership coaching, and I'm in schools across America. And when I bring out ChatGPT or I bring out AI tools or Magic School or whatever the tool is that's using, it's either one or two responses. Oh my God, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Or, oh my God, that's the scariest thing I've ever seen. I don't want it anywhere near me. It's like HAL from 2001 Space Odyssey. It's good. It's all kinds of craziness. So Eric, what about you, my man? You're in schools, you're coaching leaders.
Yeah,
where's AI right now? What's the temperature right for you right now, Eric?
So it's interesting. I think whenever anything new comes along, and Corey, I want to hear your thoughts on this. I just saw some poll, I think yesterday, about like how some people think AI is going to transform the world, and there's a lot of people who think it's just another kind of flash in the pan that we hear is going to change everything, but really it's not. I think people in schools, Nathaniel, that have taken advantage of a lot that it offers are very impressed by what it can do.
Yes, sure.
They're also nervous about what it can do for students and student learning and being able to create activities that don't rely on students to use AI to answer for them. It's a challenge. I think in education, we're always a little bit slow to adjust our practices. The pandemic, as terrible as it was, moved us to getting like more technology in schools, for better or for worse. But that was like the catalyst to me that made that happen. I don't know how quickly we're going to be able to harness AI before us being the ones who are rolling it out gets way ahead of us, and students master it in ways we aren't even ready for. So that's kind of how I'm seeing it right now play out. Sure. Corey, what are you seeing?
Yeah, help us, Corey.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we follow the surveys, the research, and really a lot of our understanding of what's happening in schools comes from being in schools with teachers, with school leaders, and when we're really lucky, with students. on almost a daily basis. And we have something to offer in the professional development and things that we're sharing, but just as much as we're sharing some expertise around what's happening in this space, we're listening and paying attention to where they are. And similar to what you all shared, we have the, I'm using it every single day. Look at all the things I'm doing in my classroom, enthusiast in the room most of the time, all the way to I haven't touched it yet, or I've touched it, but I have a lot of concerns.
Mhm.
And sometimes those concerns are because it has not yet been demystified for those educators or for those leaders. And there are absolutely valid concerns that it is in some ways potentially undermining student cognitive development if students aren't using it in a guided and an appropriate way. And there are also other massive ethical questions and data privacy and security questions, and the questions around how the tools are impacting, amplifying potential biases or potentially replacing certain types of jobs, and what the workforce is going to look like. So,
Yeah.
and we see all of that, but
Mm.
really what we also find is that sitting down for 90 minutes, doing some demystifying and this is really with educators and leaders, and then giving them a practical entry point or meeting them where they are in a pragmatic and balanced way. We're not saying AI for every kid all of the time. In fact, we have a lot of concerns about
Sure.
that approach.
Yep.
And we're also not saying ban it as much as you can for as long as you can,
Yeah.
because we have concerns about that approach too.
Yep.
Instead, we're saying, let's build some common understanding of what this technology is and why it's going to push us to evolve our teaching and our learning and our assessment practices, and then work together to find some practical application in your role, in your moment, in what you're seeing with your students.
Yeah, I think that's an outstanding opportunity that your company has with public and private, or is it mainly private, mainly public? Who are your customers right now, Corey?
All of the above.
All the above.
Public, private, charter. We're based here in the US, and I didn't even get to mention I was a school leader here in the US as well.
Yeah,
But we work with quite a few global partners as well.
outstanding.
Corey, can you talk about that, like how your role has been formed by your experience in education? So what has been your background experience in education?
Yeah. So I started my career as a high school English teacher. I am from New Jersey, but I started teaching in Houston, Texas.
All right.
And my first, 12, 13 years of my career were in Houston, Texas. I
Mm.
became a school leader and graduated our first founding classes at Yes Prep Gulfton in Houston, Texas, forever my Force family. And then from there, I started to work in the school design, ed tech, school model space, really thinking about how might we leverage technology and leverage our understanding about learning and learning science to do better by students, quite frankly, in schools. And it's interesting, Eric, you brought up COVID and how COVID,
Yeah.
forced us to get more technology in schools, but really school design and school model hasn't changed. Like,
Yeah.
we went back to in person,
Yep.
and still our understanding of what a classroom looks like, what the role of the teacher is, and what students are doing in that classroom is pretty close to the industrial model that we were
Mhm.
still following pre-COVID.
You are correct.
So, but yeah,
They
so
have they have more devices, but I don't
right,
think our teachers ever knew what to do with them.
exactly. Yes. So I was a school leader, and I went to business school, and I'm still in education. I think what I'm constantly thinking about is that, yes, this is about what's happening with technology, how's it impacting in this moment, but it's also system change, change management, and change leadership, and thinking about the people. You
Mhm.
cannot, I don't care how good the technology gets, and if you really get into it, what we find is that at first, people that are getting hands-on, it's like, wow, look how incredible this technology and how capable it is. And then it
Yeah.
only takes, a couple of hours for them to be like, actually, it doesn't quite do what I want it to do.
Sure.
But the technology is going to continue to evolve. But regardless of how good it is, we're not going to solve problems in education with technology. It still has to be student-centered, human-centered, talent-centered, and you need strong leaders that understand that the teachers in the classrooms, that the people that are helping your buildings and your district run, that is where we are going to, drive towards better outcomes, close equity gaps, and make schools higher quality and really prepare students for the future, again, regardless of what happens with the technology. At least that's
Great.
my opinion.
Great. That's a great answer.
Yeah. That's a great answer.
I agree.
So Corey, all right, I'm going to hit you with the hard one. You ready?
Yes.
That's what we do on this Community Connection. We ask hardball questions, right?
Get me fired up and then get me in trouble.
I know, right? So, okay, all right. I'm a proud Gen Xer, right? So I've got some cognitive dissonance. I'm a public school person, proud public school, send my kids to public school. I get it. I also believe in choice and voice for our parents, right? I do believe that, and I don't want anyone relegated to a zip code to be part of a bad situation. So I get it. I get it. I'm also a very family first, individual, and I do believe in that. I see a lot on this damn thing right over here that I spend way too much time on, and it's all the old Instagram, the gram, whatever you want to call it. And man, what's popping right now? I think that's what the kids use today. What's popping is a lot of AI centric schools, and they're all public or I'm sorry, they're all private or charter or magnet. Very much, it's lots of commercial, lots of advertisements. It's very in vogue. It's a very a zeitgeist kind of thing. It's like, come to our private school where every kid is on AI and they're learning on their own individual track, and they're 4 years old and they're becoming CEOs of Airbnbs, and they're 5 and they're opening up stock portfolios in Singapore, and AI is driving, and there's one teacher for like 50 kids, and then they have like 2 hours of recess, and it just looks great, but it's very tech centered and not individual centered. This is just from what I see as just the Joe Schmo consumer. I think there is so much to have individualized learning pathways for kids. I think that's outstanding.
Sure.
And I think that sometimes we've relegated students to the average, which is kind of like the traditional factory model, but it's got to be a line drawn, or am I just showing my ignorance as a Gen Xer? So Corey, help me out. I'm grappling with this.
No, Nathaniel, I think what you're showing is that your algorithms got you.
Yeah, because I was preparing for this show, Corey, is what it was. I was preparing for this show.
I appreciate that and in jest, but it's actually it's interesting for me to hear you say that, because what we're seeing on the ground is that is certainly not most schools.
Sure.
And sure, there are some of them, and the personalized pathways and personalized learning conversation is an interesting one to me, because I've been working in thinking about school models that can maximize the opportunity for personalized pathways. Here's where I think that we overgeneralize what that looks like, though. And you're going to get me into what would a school designed by Corey look like, which is fine. I'm fine putting that out into the world. I think that we're quick to jump to, and I think it's a risk when we are thinking about AI and personal agents and all of these. We're quick to jump to that personalized means it's just you on your pathway, and everything is set up for you. Now, there's benefit, and we know students, in order to learn, they have to be in their zone of proximal development, given, learning differences and whatnot. Students' ZPDs are in different places. So how do you manage a classroom of 20 students and keep them all in that learning zone for as long as possible is a real instructional challenge and question that technology can support with. What we don't want is that personalized learning and personalized pathways looks like every single student solo with their group of AI agents that are meeting, their academic needs, their social emotional needs, that are their physical trainer, physical needs.
Yeah, sure.
We think about whole child development. So there's that personalized learning question. What I think it could look like is that teachers, or even call them facilitators of the classroom, but really any teacher is going to tell you that so deeply core, and you all know this, you
Mhm.
have covered, work in education. What's deeply core to that work is the humanity and connection and
Yep.
relationship building of it,
Absolutely.
and supporting students, right, in developing community and social connections in a healthy and appropriate way. And so imagine that teacher, that educator has a highly advanced system where they're really clear day to day about what's going to optimize the learning experience for students, and that includes students being in community with one another and with the teacher, and grappling through, collaborative
Mhm.
conversations with one another, and solving novel problems that they've never seen before. So
Mhm.
the way I see it is, I think there is a world in which the technology actually helps schools be more human centered and student centered.
Yeah.
But that all comes back to like your vision for school design, and
Mhm.
your understanding of what is the purpose of school. I mean,
Yeah.
man, you open up that question in a
That's
room of a
huge.
bunch of district leaders, like what even
Yep.
is the purpose of school?
Yep.
Why do these standardized tests matter if they matter?
Mhm.
And people have different answers, but it really forces out like, okay, let's take a beat and think about, therefore, what does that mean about what an ideal classroom looks like, what an
Mhm.
ideal student experience looks like? And then what are the constraints that are holding us back from getting there right now? And
Yep.
how might technology help us remove some of those constraints?
I think that is a I wish more people could articulate that response, like that you just gave, because that was outstanding. Eric, I'll share a little bit more about my son. So he's a sophomore in a public high school. Here's what he's passionate about right now. He is currently making music beats for different types of rap artists across America. So he's on different kinds of it's called FL Studios. It's where he's able to make different kinds of beats. He pulls in samples. It's really quite fantastic. He freaking loves it, right? And the other thing that he's into is fashion design. He
Mm.
loves it, right? He makes his own clothes. He makes his own. He's got we were just in New York City on a fashion tour. He was going to Balenciaga and all these different places. This is his passion. He loves this. Not one damn time, Corey, is he learning about this stuff in school. Not one time. Not
Ah,
one. Okay.
ah,
So as a
okay.
traditionalist,
Yeah.
as a public educator, like, yeah, he needs to read, Animal Farm, he needs to read Shakespeare, he needs to know math, he needs to know those basics. But man, what a missed opportunity to
1,000.
leverage this. And I'm like, all right, come on, teachers, you're not making it good for yourself right now. So I've got a kid who is going to do something in the arts, and none of these classes are offered to him right now. And I see that the only thing that lights him up is when he has autonomy of what he chooses, when he feels like he can master these passions and his purpose. Once again, autonomy,
Mm,
mastering, and purpose. So I'm like, maybe they need to get on
mm,
some AI. Maybe
mhm.
that's a lane that they can help him out with.
Well, and Nathaniel, and I hate to bring it to back to some of the negative of this, but it's also the elephant in the room. The
Mm,
elephant in the room amongst leaders and educators is that AI is for cheating. It's a
mm,
tool for
Hmm.
cheating.
Yeah.
And we need to figure out how to get kids, to write their essays about the Great Gatsby. And I say that as a literature enthusiast, love
Yep.
the Great Gatsby.
Gatsby's great.
But
Gatsby's terrible. I hate the Great
Musically,
Gatsby. Oh, it's
currently
awful.
currently a musical on Broadway for
I love,
Vincio.
oh, well, I
Oh,
love the
Gatsby
I
is
book,
did see
great.
the Book of Mormon. That was fun. That was
but
fun. I like that one.
yeah, I mean, and I was an English teacher myself, so I toe this line because I don't want to turn the educators off. But students cheat for all sorts of reasons, and they do have an easy essay button now. And we're
Yeah.
not doing any students any benefits by saying, like, well, our only solution to this is that you have to handwrite your essays. And I'm not saying that that can't be like one strategy and component, but that's not the world they're going into. And back to what you just shared about your son, Nathaniel,
Mm,
students, they cheat for a variety of reasons, but one of them is because they don't see the relevance. They're not
yeah.
passionate. I believe deeply that students are not lazy, that they want to be successful, that they are curious, that they want to learn.
Mhm.
And easier said than done, but our job as educators and school designers and leaders, if you will, is to figure out how do we tap into those passions and those curiosities and those interests. Because I can guarantee you, if your son had, a project,
Yep.
even, and we say like an AI empowered project where he has to build a marketing campaign
Yes.
for, a fashion line or whatever it may be, and he has to use evaluation skills, research skills, art,
Oh, he'd
persuasion
love it.
skills, he would be all over it, and he would be mastering the things that are actually the core of what our learning standards are
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. And he'd get the standards done through that. He could ask and answer
Exactly.
questions. He
Exactly.
could, synthesize and evaluate and all those things. And I would love for him to spend more time on it, Corey, but he ends up saying, "But Dad, I got to turn in the essay, or I've
Mhm.
got to do this."
Yeah.
So I'm at a crossroads. Eric, what are your thoughts, my man?
It's tough because a lot of research has found that writing, especially nonfiction writing, is critically important for student success.
Yep.
Yes.
So I understand the trepidation or the worry that people have because students are doing it. So Corey, I don't know if they need more time or just a different way to approach writing. Nathaniel, like you said, if it is an area of interest, you'll be much more motivated
Sure.
to do that thing. But I know writing is hard. Writing's hard. It is challenging, and that's why you get so much gain from writing is because it makes you think and process and organize your thinking.
Right.
So I think teachers have a worry of if we don't capture that ability with writing and we export that to AI, it's tough. So I think getting that right is really important because we can't give up on writing as a skill in favor of a prompt in an AI box.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that. And I think that what this is going to require of us, and that's like the collective of us, educational community and
No, us right here, just
us.
us
Well,
three, right
hey,
here.
let's do it. Think tank for a year. Is to really understand what that developmental continuum is. And again, it's not as simple as this, so I don't want to eh,
Yeah.
oversimplify, but we don't put calculators in the hands of elementary school students. And really the strongest approach to math instruction is building conceptual understanding,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We teach addition, subtraction, multiplication, etc., with manipulatives. And so
Mhm.
similarly, students need to learn how to write, how to,
Sure.
articulate their thoughts. And if you are a regular user of AI, you know that you can't get a high quality outcome of something unless you have knowledge and expertise in that thing that you're looking for. So
Very
Exactly.
true.
you can produce an essay with ChatGPT. It's not going to be very good, very
No.
original, not in any of that. And
Mhm.
even as professionals, if you've ever tried to create something that you're an expert in, you know that you need that expertise and that you use the tool almost in collaboration
Yeah.
with it to enhance and augment your own expertise.
Yeah.
But anyway, all that to say,
Yep.
Eric, and again, I get that it's a challenge because kids have the essay button here.
Yep.
Yep.
They know better than anybody how to get past the the firewalls
The
and the blocks
firewalls.
at school.
This
So
is what I worry about as a public school champion. If we don't help our customers out, they will go
Mhm.
somewhere else.
Mhm.
And this is a thing, right? So once again, I'm all for choice. I'm all for those types of things, but I want every public school to be the best choice for our parents and families. But if we don't innovate, we're going to lose customers. And I think that's something that it needs to be part of the conversation. AI can really, really help us maybe do some things that we haven't always been able to do. So I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting concept. Your response?
Oh, well, the thing I wanted to add, Nathaniel, or that it made me think of is teachers
Yes.
and setting teachers up. Because I agree with you. There needs to be innovation, and it's great when that innovation is coming from the teachers, and there are conditions in place at the school where teachers have a safe space to try things out and then share what's working and what's not working. And we ask a lot of our teachers need to get paid more,
Yeah.
and they've even more so are kind of at the whims of different things that are happening within the educational system. And so, I mean, one of the things that we do, full transparency, is invest in building that AI literacy and understanding of the
It's awesome.
technology with teachers, and we are product agnostic. We don't say use this product specifically. We talk about what the foundational technology is. How do you use it? What are some of the things that are on the market? Where do you need to be careful? All of those things, with the belief that as teachers start to explore and try some things out for themselves, they start to unlock and understand, like, oh, okay, here are the capabilities and the limitations, and now I'm starting to think about how I can innovate within my classroom.
Love it.
First with their own practice, and then, okay, then what does this mean for, especially for our secondary students? Very much like this should more so be 13 plus, but what does it look like for students to start using these tools effectively and ethically within their learning journey as well? Because they're going to have to be able to use them
Absolutely.
in post-secondary and in career too. But
I,
anyway,
I
all that to say,
it's great.
investing in teachers and giving them, the space and the permission and the professional development and resources, I think, is really important.
And I think for every teacher, because I don't know a single teacher who is 2 to 3 years in the job that ever had a course on this work.
Oh,
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
and maybe a new teacher who just got from their undergrad now, maybe they've had exposure, but it's rapidly changed so much. And I think that second order change is hard for people. I absolutely get it. And I think that's why they got to call you, Corey. That's why they got to call your company, man. That's why they got to
Well,
call your company.
and job embedded learning. I mean, I coach so many teachers, especially my bread and butter, as much as they stress me out, were those first year teachers that just had sixth graders running all over the place, and it's like, okay, job embedded. What are we going to do in the first 10 minutes of your math lesson tomorrow? And then let's talk
I love
about
it.
that one. And that comes back to actually having the leadership capacity to be able
Yeah.
to do that and things like that.
Awesome. Very good. Dr.
So
Worcester, you're back,
speaking of
man.
Yeah.
I think so. Speaking of leadership capacity, so I'm a principal and I've never used AI before. How do you coach me? What things should I be doing with it? What should I be talking to my teachers about? What do you say, Corey? Yeah, you like that?
I love this. So we would start with you. Like, let's get you comfortable. I mean, if I had the opportunity to just spend a little bit of time with you, like, talk to me about, it's impacting you whether you use it or not, as you're leading a school. So tell me what your perspective is, where you are, what are your wonderings, what are your concerns, and then let's actually talk about where might there be some opportunities in how you spend your time day to day in your workflow. Like, what are actually some of your workflow pain points that we could potentially explore using the technology to add value to your day to day? And then let's do that for a little while, see how you're thinking, how you're feeling, and come back to it, and then continue to think about the community that you're leading. And if you were ready for more than that, the first thing I would say, it's not the first thing. Let's say the second thing is, and we push for this with everybody that we work with, do the same thing with your teachers and with your students in a completely non-judgmental. I'm here to listen and to understand what your perspective is. What are your fears, your hopes, pain points when we think about how AI is impacting the teaching and learning that's happening in our classrooms and in our lives?
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, both of them, the teachers and students, but oftentimes the perspective of students and what their experiences are left out of the data points that influence, change management and change initiatives.
That's awesome.
Do I
That's
have you
awesome.
convinced, Eric?
Come on, Eric, let's do it.
Feel free to schedule
Oh,
another,
Eric was
another 30-minute
Eric's an easy
consultation.
sell. Corey, I want to just pivot. We have just a little bit of time left. I am fascinated with the business world. Like I'm just fascinated. Who's someone who has been an educator for, gosh, I don't know, 30 years, I guess and you've got an MBA, right? From what I understand. So I love it. So just like pivoting a little bit, like, is this your company? Did you start this company? Is it part of conglomerate? Like just from a business land. I'm just curious about that because it's
A
something that
conglomerate. Oh
I don't
gosh.
know. Is that a
Sometimes
word?
we wish. Sometimes we wish. No, actually, so you'll get a quick AI for Education history lesson here.
Yeah.
So our CEO is Amanda Bickerstaff, and she built a website 2 years ago, pretty much. I think it was April 17th. So
Yeah.
we're
Oh, wow.
coming
Yeah.
up. And, somewhat similar, and we've had somewhat different paths, but similar in that we saw the ed tech space really blowing up with AI tools
Mhm.
for schools and classrooms, and saw the business opportunity there, but also saw like, whoa, this is going to be a like huge disruption that leaders and teachers and educators are going to have to navigate. And there's nothing in the space right now that is supporting that part of the work.
Yeah.
And so early on, early in 2023, really, educators and school leaders were already having conversations about integrating AI, and they were having those conversations with tech vendors, which there's a space for them
Sure.
in the broader ecosystem. But if you're only ever talking to people that are trying to sell you their product,
Mm.
then that's not quite an agnostic perspective about
Right.
what it look like to do this in a way that is truly student and community centered. Anyhow, so yeah, so Amanda built the first iteration of our prompt library that we have on our site that is
Wow.
free, and it's a prompt library for educators. About 2 years ago, she started to do workshops, and then I was actually on the tech product side of things,
Oh, wow.
building and also consulting on some school design and some other product management when I was seeing something similar. And she and I, by serendipity happened to connect and realize that we were thinking about this space in the same way. She had also started to work with our third leader, Dan Costa. And so yeah, I was just like, we should do
That's
it together.
fascinating.
And here we
All right,
are.
I'm gonna ask you a question. I gotta ask this question. What is the vision and mission statement of AI for education?
So our vision and mission right now is to build AI literacy for 1 million educators. We're actually getting close when we think about the impact.
Wow.
And
We got to change
so
that million to
I
that M
know.
to a
Well,
B.
as we evolve and as we grow, because we're a team of 5, plus a lot of help, but as we grow, I really deeply believe that supporting schools and supporting districts and teachers with thinking about this evolution of learning in a way that again is student centered, is human centered, and really make sure that it is the people that are running the districts and the schools that are directing this
Yeah.
redesign or this evolution, versus the tech products directing the evolution.
Love it.
Providing that guidance is what we hope to continue to do. But there is a
I'm
lot of
sold.
AI literacy to build.
Man, I tell you what,
It's going to take some time.
it's fascinating. And I love how you mentioned all the different stakeholders. Like for me as a principal, like, okay, I want my teachers to be the world's best with navigating this in a
Right.
public school space. I want my kids to be the world's best in navigating. I want my parents and my families to know
Yes.
for them to be
Yes.
literate as well. So,
Yes.
I want everyone on my district, on my school board. I want everyone to be very, very, very literate in this space. So that's outstanding.
And I would say it's teaching and learning, and it's helping our young people and navigate the world that they're growing up into.
Yeah.
And so there's a huge conversation to be had and awareness to build around the impact of AI companions as well. Are you
Yeah.
familiar with them?
Yes.
Character AI, replica AI, our young people are on these sites for hours upon hours a
Yeah.
day and building parasocial relationships. And sometimes when we bring it up, not a lot of the adults in the room realize how
Yeah.
popular they are.
This is gonna go ahead, Eric. Go ahead, man.
What's happening next in AI? What do you think? How else do you think is going to continue to evolve?
Oh. What's happening? So that the models are going to continue to get more advanced.
Wow.
But I do believe, especially as it relates to education specifically, I think that we're going to continue for a couple of years to see very specific point solution use cases, if you will, that solve some of the challenges within classrooms and schools. And that it's going to take a while and perhaps again some like completely newly designed schools to really think about a coherent system approach to it.
Wow.
That being said, we also, and this is part of like AI for education, well you'll hear us yell it, you know, from the mountaintops. We think that investing in AI literacy is so important for your educators and for your students. And that if you don't yet have AI literacy integrated into the experience, especially for secondary students, that by 2027, they're going to be behind, because as they go into post-secondary, as they go into career, etc., that it's going to be expected that they know how to use the technology effectively.
Wow.
And want them to use it safely and ethically as well.
Wow. You know, it's kind of like this is a terrible parallel, terrible metaphor, but this is what's in my ADHD brain right now. It's like it's like, remember DARE? They used to come into your school and teach you about drugs. Remember drug abuse resistance education?
Yes.
And I remember like being very fascinated about this. And they're like, well, why is DARE in our classrooms? This was me as a kid. And they're like, well, if we don't teach you in school, you're going to learn it from, the streets, from corn pop, down the road or whatever. Terrible analogy, but just hear me out. Like, if we don't teach our kids how to use this appropriately, they're going to learn it from somewhere else, and maybe it's not always the right way to use it. So I would rather in a controlled ecosystem where it's learning it the right way, teachers are trained, educators are trained, kids are learning it the right way, how to evaluate and synthesize, which are like Bloom's highest order of thinking skills, right? So how do we evaluate whether or not this AI prompt is done correctly with a teacher leading this? And how do we synthesize information? The two highest areas of Bloom, AI can help us out with that. But if we're not learning it with trained educators who maybe take advantage of AI for education, Corey, with right, and are learning it how to do an appropriate way, like my son, he's going to end up doing it just on his own, and he may not be as literate as he needs to be. Where some schools and some kids have been trained how to do it appropriately. So
yeah.
Do you see the metaphor? Do you see the parallel there?
Yeah, like that. Well, and Nathaniel, I would also say, and to bring it back to the importance of writing, Eric, and like I don't want to over assume what I'm seeing in your face, but there's so many questions here about how do we make sure that students are learning what they need to learn, the critical thinking and all of those durable skills. I think there's also a huge opportunity here for us to make sure metacognition and self-awareness and self-directed learning are core to the student experience. And some of that is going to require that we're building more relevance for students. And it comes back to the belief that students are curious, they want to learn, they want to be successful, they want to pursue their passions. And if you help them understand how they're learning, how they're navigating the things that they're interested in, then they're not going to have AI do all of the thinking for them, because they're not going to want it to do the thinking for them.
Yeah, I love it. Corey, you make me having a conversation with you, you make me very interested of getting back into the classroom, getting back in the schoolhouse, and reaching out to you to come into my school and be able to train my teachers. But I'm not in that space right now. So how do we get a hold of you? If any of these listeners that are out there, how do we get a hold of Corey? How do we get a hold of AI for Education? What do we do?
Well, visit our website, aiforeducation.io. And you'll find a wealth of resources there. Go to the resource bank. You'll find our prompt library. We run free webinars, and all the recordings are there, as well as a bunch of other resources. So check out what we have to offer there. And then you can find me on LinkedIn at Corey Layne Crouch. And you can also find my CEO, Amanda Bickerstaff, on LinkedIn. We post quite a bit about what's happening in the world of AI overall, as well as AI and education.
Awesome. Are you on Instagram or Twitter or any of those things that the kids are on these days? I don't even know if the kids are on those things.
I don't think the kids are on there.
I don't know what the kids are on anymore.
No, we're mainly on LinkedIn.
All right. Very good.
And the Community Connection podcast.
Oh yeah, that's right. Hey, look at that. See,
you can
learned
find
that.
us here.
I like that. See, you learned that. So did you get your MBA? Where'd you get your MBA?
At Rice University in Houston, Texas.
In Houston.
Mhm.
Best food in the world. I think Houston has the best food scene in the world.
Houston does have good food.
Better than New York City. I'm just telling you.
Look, not that this has nothing to do with AI for education, but if you are a young professional like I was, 22-year-old, fresh college graduate, go live in Houston. One of the best cities for young professionals.
It was great. No,
live in nice apartments, eat nice food. And
it's affordable.
Exactly.
It's affordable. It's
hot and sweaty, but you get used to it when you're in your
it's hot and sweaty in New Jersey too. Sometimes.
That's true.
What are you gonna do, Corey? What a awesome opportunity to connect with you. You're in a space that's so needed, public, private, chart, whatever it is. Everyone who's working with a kid, needs to be able to have this type of literacy, and you're filling a need that the universe, has right now. So thank you very much for your efforts and your advocacy, and to promote agency, if you will. So really, really good job with that. Well done. Best of luck to you. Outstanding.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you providing the space and the conversation to talk about this. It's really important.
Hey guys, thank you very much for watching the Community Connection with Corey Crouch, AI for Education, not A1 for education, boys and girls, AI for education. As always, take care.